People say kindness doesn't cost anything. But sometimes, one small moment of kindness can change an entire life. What if a single careless joke, meant to entertain the powerful, ended up revealing a hidden genius and reminding everyone in the room what real humanity looks like? Before we begin, if you enjoy emotional, inspiring stories like this, please take a moment to subscribe, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your support helps our channel, True Story Tales, bring more meaningful stories to life. Now, let me tell you this unforgettable story. Margaret Whitmore was one of the richest women in America. Her name appeared on business magazines, charity boards, and newspaper headlines. She owned skyscrapers, tech companies, and luxury resorts. People admired her success, feared her authority, and rarely saw her smile. Every morning, Margaret arrived at her Manhattan office at exactly 8:30 a.m. She liked order. She liked control. And she liked reminding people, without saying a word, who was in charge. The building was always spotless. Floors shined like mirrors. Trash cans were emptied before they were full. And most people never thought twice about the people who kept it that way. One of those people was Rosa Martinez, a quiet janitor in her early 40s. Rosa worked the night shift and sometimes stayed late in the mornings. She wore worn sneakers, kept her head down, and never complained. To most employees, she was invisible. But Rosa had a son named Daniel. Daniel was 12 years old. Small for his age. Quiet. Curious. His world was small: school, their tiny apartment in Queens, and the public library. Rosa couldn't afford babysitters, so sometimes Daniel came with her to work early in the morning and sat in the break room doing homework. One rainy Friday, Margaret decided to host an informal breakfast meeting for her top executives. She wanted something fun, something that would show her clever side. Margaret was known for loving chess. She believed it reflected intelligence and strategy, much like business. As the executives gathered, laughing and sipping coffee, Margaret noticed Daniel sitting quietly in the corner of the room with a battered book. She raised an eyebrow. "Whose kid is that?" she asked, not unkindly, but with mild annoyance. Rosa froze. Her hands trembled slightly as she stepped forward. "He's my son, ma'am. I couldn't leave him alone today. I'm sorry." Margaret looked at the boy, then at the chessboard set up near the table. A smirk formed on her face. "Well," she said loudly enough for everyone to hear, "since we're talking about strategy today, why don't we make things interesting?" The room grew quiet. She turned to Daniel. "Do you know how to play chess?" Daniel looked at his mother. Rosa's eyes filled with worry. Slowly, Daniel nodded. "Yes, ma'am." A few executives chuckled. Someone whispered, "This should be entertaining." Margaret leaned back in her chair. "All right then," she said. "You play against me. Just for fun." To her, it was a joke. A harmless way to show confidence. A reminder of her status. Daniel walked to the board quietly and sat down. His hands shook slightly, but his eyes were focused. The game began. At first, Margaret played casually, chatting with the executives, making bold moves without much thought. Daniel said nothing. He studied the board carefully, moving his pieces slowly, deliberately. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Margaret stopped talking. Her smile faded as she leaned forward, staring at the board. Daniel had blocked her attacks. Anticipated her strategy. Every move she made was met with calm precision. The room was silent now. One executive cleared his throat. Another leaned closer to watch. Daniel's face remained calm, but inside, his heart was pounding. Chess was his escape. He learned it from an old library book when he was 7. He practiced every night on a cracked plastic board Rosa found at a thrift store. Margaret frowned. "This isn't possible," she muttered under her breath. 20 minutes later, Daniel looked up gently. "Checkmate." No one laughed. Margaret stared at the board. Then she looked at the boy again, really looked at him for the first time. How did you learn to play like that? She asked, her voice different now. Softer. Daniel shrugged. I just like thinking ahead. It makes me feel calm. Rosa's eyes filled with tears. She whispered, I'm so sorry if he did something wrong. Margaret stood up slowly. No, she said firmly. He did everything right. The executives were stunned. Some looked embarrassed. Others looked thoughtful. Margaret took a deep breath. For the first time in years, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time, humility. She crouched down to Daniel's level. What do you want to be when you grow up? Daniel hesitated. I want to be someone who solves problems. Someone who helps. That answer stayed with her. That same day, Margaret arranged for Daniel to be tested by a local chess academy. The results shocked everyone. His intelligence level was extraordinary. His strategic thinking was off the charts. But Margaret didn't stop there. She paid for Daniel's education. Not as charity, but as belief. She ensured Rosa received fair pay, benefits, and flexible hours. She invited Daniel to chess tournaments, introduced him to mentors, and made sure he never felt like he didn't belong. Years passed. Daniel grew taller. Stronger. More confident. He won national chess competitions. He spoke at youth programs. He never forgot where he came from. And Margaret changed too. She started greeting her employees by name. She listened more. She began funding programs for underprivileged children, not for publicity, but because she finally understood something she had missed her whole life. Kindness wasn't weakness. One afternoon, many years later, Daniel returned to that same office building. This time, he wore a suit. He carried himself with quiet confidence. Margaret, now older, smiled when she saw him. You beat me fair and square, she said. And you changed me. Daniel smiled back. You changed my life. They sat down at the chessboard once again. Not as billionaire and janitor's son. Not as powerful and powerless. Just two people, connected by one moment of unexpected kindness. Sometimes, the greatest talents are hidden in the quietest places. Sometimes, the smallest act of kindness opens the biggest doors. So the next time you meet someone the world overlooks, remember this story. A little respect. A little kindness. A little humanity. You never know whose life you might change. And maybe, just maybe, they'll change yours too.